Welcome back to Canadian Justice, where we are discussing a recent legal challenge to prohibitions on sex work in Canada and the Court of Ontario dismissing that challenge. Now, Janine, one of the things that's interesting to me is that the purpose of this law, of these prohibitions, the legislature makes it very clear through, I think, the preamble of the legislation and certainly in the technical paper that the purpose of these prohibitions is to denounce sex work. Now, the courts, when doing legal analysis, consider whether legislation has a valid public purpose. Can you talk about the denunciation as a valid public purpose and whether or not what the court considered that?
Well, I think ultimately that's crucial because it was very important to the Supreme Court of Canada in the Bedford decision that, according to their reasoning, prostitution was legal in Canada at that time. And so the preamble was designed in a very particular way to say we're going to shift public understanding on this issue. And as we've seen in other countries that have done this isn't something that happens overnight. It may well be a generational change in our thinking, but that we need to start thinking about the sex industry differently. Prostitution is not a solution to the poverty that women experience. It's not a social safety net for women. And the practice of purchasing sex is exploitative and it's harmful. And so it's not just the preamble, it's the fact that the communicating offense, the purchasing offense, has been placed in the portion of the criminal code that deals with offenses against the person. So it's right there with assault and sexual assault. It's not a morals crime, it's a crime of sexual exploitation. And so that's a big shift in thinking for a lot of people. But it's crucial to understanding what these laws are doing and how they work as a foundation for shifting that thinking. They're not going to solve everything. The criminal law is a blunt tool and doesn't always solve social problems by any means, but they're necessary to affect that change in thinking and to start bringing in the other kinds of programs we need that are going to deter men from purchasing sex and provide women with real alternatives.
Now, this obviously is a contentious issue. It gets people really worked up on every side of the issue. I think because we're generally talking about quite a vulnerable population, but I think everyone who has been involved in this case, and there were many, many interveners in this case, people who made submissions who were not a party to the case, but I, my perspective is I think everyone comes to this from a perspective of wanting to advance the rights and safety of vulnerable women and girls and yes, boys as well. Can you explain your perspective on that?
Well, let me just say first that I'm not sure I would go so far as to say that everybody comes from that perspective. Some of the people involved in this advocacy and in litigation also profit from
Right.
prostitution. They run prostitution businesses,
Aside
and there
from
is a
sex workers, you
financial.
mean like third parties?
Well, that's right. One of the applicants in the case ran an escort agency with her husband. He's kind of disappeared from view, but she wants to be able to continue to do that to profit from the prostitution of other women. But I think the Canadian public as a whole, you're quite right, is very sympathetic and concerned about the situation that they see of women in prostitution. And so I would just say that why on earth would we create a system that keeps those women there and incentivizes more women being recruited to fill that demand? It makes no sense at all. This behavior is not inevitable. Women's poverty is not inevitable, and I don't believe in the kind of biological determinism that says that men have to buy sex. Most men don't. And so this is a problem that can be solved, and it's much better for the vulnerable women we're concerned about to solve it rather than to find more ways to keep them there.
A wonderful perspective. Janine Benedet, thank you so much for your work on this issue and for coming on the show today to talk about it. I appreciate you so much.